Okay, it shows that we're live.
All right.
So I am so excited. Let me just check just to be sure though, because I never know for absolute. And I always like to check. Yep, we're good. It says we're being live streamed. So here we are. I'm Kelly Coates Gilbert. I am broadcasting live tonight on She's Reading from Dallas, Texas. And I have been wanting to have Bridget on for so long. We were just talking about how hard it is to juggle all that lands on our plate as a publisher and an author. And then, we have personal lives too. And you're going to learn about Bridget's personal life is very eclectic, very fun. I love to watch her on Facebook and see all that she's involved in because she has energy and she doesn't stop for anything. I don't think any grass grows under her feet. But let me just make a brief introduction and then we'll get talking. Bridget Baker is also known as B.E. Baker. That's her pen name. She's a talented author from Texas whose work spans multiple genres, including my favorite, women's fiction. Bridget is an attorney, and that'll be fun for you guys that I know are watching from my legal life. She's an attorney who left the practice of law to write, and she's known for her ability to craft compelling characters, intricate, fun storylines that keep readers engaged from beginning to end. She is married, has 5 kids, a menagerie of animals, a huge reader fan base. I'm one of them. Welcome, Bridget.
Oh, thank you so much.
I'm so glad you're here.
That's definitely true about the animals. There are a lot of animals at my house.
Yeah, tell everyone here, for any of you who don't know Bridget, let's just let her give just a brief introduction to her personal life and some of what she juggles.
Okay. So I have 5 kids, and the youngest one just turned 7 this Saturday, and the oldest one is 15, and he's going to turn 16 this summer. And so then they're all in between. I have boy, girl, 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 boy. So we call them bookend boys. Oh. And then all 3 of my girls ride horses, and we ride Western, we do reining, and English, we do hunter jumper. I have a daughter that does 2 daughters that do hunter and 1 that does jumper. And we have 7 horses. So we have a lot of horses. It's funny because
puppies.
Yeah. And so we have 3 dogs, and then right now we have 7 because one of my dogs, we have 2 Pomeranians, and one of them is the mother and the second one is the daughter. And then the mother had another litter of puppies. We kept one of the puppies from the first litter. So this is only her second litter. I'm not really a breeder, but I guess technically kind of I am right now because we've got puppies. And this time we had 3 of them sold from the get-go. And then I have 1 that I haven't sold yet because I haven't listed any of them. My kids keep trying to convince me to keep it. I'm like, we're not keeping another dog. We already have a border collie and 2 Pomeranians. And then we have a big barn. We're on a couple of acres. And so 4 of my horses are on property and 3 are at the jump barn. And then, one of them's getting broke right now. My 14-year-old girl is helping our trainer break our filly, who turns like 3 next month. And then, so I guess I just have 3 at home right now, 3 at the jump barn and 1 at the reining facility. And then I've got 3 barn cats and 30 chickens. So wow. It's we just adopted a couple of weeks ago a Bengal. One of my friends had a Bengal, and it's funny because about once a week, maybe every other week, someone messages me, "Can you take any more cats? Do you need any barn cats?" Because our barn setup is pretty posh. They can go in and out of the tack room whenever they want, which is heated and cooled. And they have a 3,500 square foot barn with a loft and a lot of acreage, and they come in and out of the garage as much as they want. They have a door there too. And so they have a pretty nice life. But I don't take any more cats because we had the 2 and it was fine. But when my friend was like, "I have a Bengal, he'd be free," I was like, "Tell me more." I've always
I've seen the pictures that you've posted, and that Bengal is beautiful. I mean,
he loves it.
I saw the word Bengal, I thought, do they allow Bengals in where you live? And then I realized it was a cat.
Yeah. So the Bengals are interesting. This is what sold me on it. When we always adopt our cats. We adopt our dogs too, except for the Pomeranians, because it's really hard to find a Pomeranian that you can adopt. Usually if you find a Pomeranian that's up for adoption, it's got a lot of health problems, or it's really nervous and shaky, or it's not safe around kids. And I have kids. So if you get them when they're babies, they're great with kids. You can't adopt them. And I just love Pomeranians. So anyway, that's why we have those and have had puppies with those, because otherwise I'm an adopt an animal kind of person. But my my cats, barn cats, we always go adopt them. And the first set that we got came with something called feline leukemia, which I didn't know what it was until we got these cats. And I took them to the vet and they said, these cats have feline leukemia. And I was like, what does that mean? And it's communicable, but then it's like a virus that slowly over the course of 1 to 2 years kind of acts in their body like leukemia in humans, and they die. Like there's nothing you can do about it. And they have a feline leukemia vaccine, but it's only about 95% effective. So any outdoor cats have a pretty high probability over a 15, 20-year period of contracting it, because they'll come in contact with other cats. And so, and of course, the feral cat population, a lot of them end up with it. And so I found out that Bengals, one of the reasons that what they did is they took an Asian leopard cat and they crossed it with a domestic, and then they did that 3 more times. And because the Asian leopard cats can't get feline leukemia, neither can these. So the Bengals are immune. And so I was like, hey, that's great. I asked my vet and he's like, we don't need to do the vaccination. They literally can't get it. And I was like, excellent, do it anyway. It's like, we get really nervous. I'm like, you said that, but let's make sure. So,
So many readers are animal lovers. I know that if you put an animal, especially a dog, in your books, they say you're almost guaranteed to have increased sales. And I have a little Yorkie, 2.5 pounds. I got her literally 3 months before my very first book released in 2012. She's been on my lap for every single book, and she's starting to have a little bit of problems. Her hips are going out and everything. And I know, it's going to kill me. It's the only bad thing about having animals. They bring so much joy, but boy, do they bring heartache when we have to say goodbye.
Yeah, we have a lot of chickens. And when people ask me about chickens, chickens, I'm one of those people who loves the egg rainbow. And so I have a lot of, I buy my hens because I want certain egg colors. So our egg rainbow is beautiful, but chickens, everything likes chicken, unfortunately. And so, except for me, I don't eat chicken. Ever since we had pet chickens, I just don't eat it. But everything else is always trying to kill our chickens. So we have, ours are free range, but we have automatic doors that close and open on both of our coops. And we go out and check them every night when we're home. But you'll still lose a chicken or 2 a year to predators. And it just kills me every time. My neighbor's dog killed a couple, and that was unfortunate, but it just kept getting out and there was nothing we could do about it.
I grew up on a ranch too in southern Idaho, and we had, it was a sheep ranch, and we had coyotes and wolves. And, it was devastating to go out and find, that they'd gotten into your band of sheep, because they were just, it was awful. And
yeah,
so
we live on a creek. And so for us, it's mostly, we have a skunk that keeps coming in. Skunks will kill them, although they're not as bad, but they will. And raccoons and possums are our 2 number 1. We see coyotes and stuff too, but actually, interestingly, the horses scare a lot of that away. Because we have horses running back and forth, they tend to go into the neighbor's yard instead of ours because they don't want to mess with it.
Yeah. So do you pull, I've read The Bequest, which I adored. First of all, very few people write a debut novel in first person present. And I did too. And when I turned that book in, my editor went, you can't do that. And I wasn't going to rewrite it. And plus I thought that it fits so beautifully with the story, but I rarely see a debut novel in first person present, and I loved it.
So I will say this, I started out trad, which means instead of doing indie, I had an agent and was pursuing traditional publication. And so it's for any of the viewers who don't know what that is. And my agent and I were on sub 7 different times and went to acquisition 6 times, or on 6 different books, but like 11 times, I think. It was really frustrating. But we almost sold a book and almost sold a book and almost sold a book. And I had so many editors tell me that my first person, they're like, we don't like first person present, but yours is flawless.
Yeah.
And then I did a couple of things called an R&R, which is a revise and resubmit, where the editor would literally say, hey, I like this, but change that. And I had several editors tell me, your agent told me that she had you change this to third person. Can I take a look at the other tense that you had it in? So I send it over and they're like, oh my gosh, your first person present is perfect. You have, so I just,
the best first person present, you don't even know you're reading it. It just, and I love that it puts you in, you're the character immediately. And I noticed that, Colleen Hoover is so popular right now, and she's written some first person present too. And I think, I mean, it's my opinion that that's some of what has contributed to the success of those books, because you can't, if it's done well, like you did, you can't help but just immediately be connected. And your reviews reflect that. Let me read a few of your reviews.
Okay.
This story had so many twists and turns. I loved it. Another one said, a sweet, clean book with amazing characters I fell in love with. I'm ready for the next one, and the next one, and the next one. I thought that was cute. And then you got a coveted Publishers Weekly review. And for you readers who don't know what that is, not everyone gets reviewed by Publishers Weekly. I was lucky to get reviewed by them, but only one book out of all that I've done. And Bridget's book was reviewed, and this is what they said. Baker brings freshness and fun to her compelling stories. And I would absolutely agree. You are a really good writer, Bridget.
Oh, Kelly.
I'll
come on anytime. This is great.
Well, I'm a reader, and I love women's fiction. So I haven't read your Bridget Baker stuff, but your B.E. Baker stuff I loved. And, the bequest was really fun, really well written. I loved the setting. So I couldn't really wait to get you on here and just talk to you about it. So why don't you go ahead and tell our readers a little bit about your writing journey, because you were an attorney, still are, and how you ended up writing, and then tell us just a little bit about your series so that a lot of people here maybe have never ever heard of you.
Right.
Tell them what you write.
Yep, that sounds great. So I've always loved writing. I was the youngest lawyer in Texas for a couple of years because I graduated from undergraduate in 2 years. And so I was 19 years old when I started law school, and then did law school in the normal 3 years. But when I started law school, I didn't know anything about it. I think everything I knew about law school had come from that Clueless or whatever. And everybody in that was like, they would call me after, or not Clueless. What was the Legally Blonde? Every law school called me Legally Blonde. They'd be like, "Elle, come here." I'm like, "Shut up." If I hear this one more time. Anyway, because I was a lot younger than everybody else there, and I have blonde hair. And so anyway, so I did law school, and I worked as a lawyer full-time for a long time, several years, 10 years or something like that. And then I started writing in my free time, but there's not a lot of free time when you're a lawyer. And then I started having kids too. And so it was funny because I kept thinking, and I write really, really fast. So I would get a week off and tell my husband I was going to write a book in a week. And so I wrote 8 books while I was with my agent, and we shopped 7 of them. And it was just a really frustrating process where people kept saying, I literally got feedback that said things like, "This was too complicated. Readers won't be able to follow it." And I'm like,
no.
Well, I mean, some readers might not, but I think a lot of readers will.
Yeah.
And so
I loved it. Yeah.
This plot's too intricate. This plot's too confusing. This plot. And I'm like, okay, all right. I don't want to dumb things down for people. I think there are plenty of people out there who like sophisticated, smart, well-told, well-written stuff. And I really thought that being a lawyer would prepare me for writing and I wouldn't need to do anything else. And that was very wrong. The first few books I wrote were absolutely atrocious. I mean, they were horrible. And some of my prose was okay, but my story wasn't good. The characters weren't good. Anyway, it was a mess. And so I started hitting craft hard. I went to conferences. I read dozens and dozens of craft books. I took classes. I signed up for a writing class at the exchange. Yep. So I started hitting my craft hard, and my craft got better. I'm actually kind of glad that I sat there treading water for a couple of years pursuing traditional, because I think that's one of the reasons that my craft is good. And that I can write really fast because I learned how to do things the right way. And so for me, that was actually probably not as awful as it sounds. I was still practicing law pretty much full time then. And so around the time my husband finished, my husband's an ER doctor, so he finished with his medical residency about 2 years before I finally found my agent, maybe a year before I found my agent. And I was still working, obviously, as a lawyer. And so I had written about 8 books that weren't very good. They were okay. Some of them were okay. Some of them weren't. And then I decided, I met Elena Johnson. Probably a lot of people here have read Elena. And she convinced me to stop waiting on agents and stop waiting on traditional and start putting my books out myself. And so I did. Yeah. And I did everything wrong. I like to do things the Bridget way, which is usually the stupid way. And then I circle back around and go, oh, because you don't know what you didn't know until you realize you didn't know it. And so I made a lot of not great mistakes there, marketing wise, mostly. I think my craft was okay. But
Yeah.
my very first series that I put out was called it starts with a book called Marked. It's the Sins of Our Ancestors series, and it's a Bridget Baker, and it's kind of a Hunger Games genre type story. And I don't know if you guys are religious, but I prayed about it a lot. Like, do I go traditional? Do I go indie? What do I do? Do I keep waiting? And I really felt like God was telling me that this series was never going to be put out traditionally. So I may as well try it indie. And I did. It was kind of like it was a good trial series. I didn't know what I was doing. I put it out. I made a lot of mistakes, but I found some readers anyway. So if you've been with me since Marked and you happen to be on here, hello. It was a interesting year, 2018, when I first put that series out. And my writing has come a long way, but so many people still tell me that they just loved that series. I read it in 3 days. It was so amazing, so
You're a great storyteller.
it still reaches people. And I needed work, but it was still a good series. So I still have it out. It's still published. And actually Marked is free. So if people like dystopian or post-apocalyptic, they can go grab the first one, Marked, for free.
Oh, there you go, everyone.
Yeah, grab that one for nothing and give it a try. It is YA though, so be warned. And then, so after all of that happened, I decided, okay, I think what I need to do is try and figure out this marketing stuff. And it was funny because I was talking to Elena at a retreat last weekend, and she was telling me that she had like 7 series that were dogs before she had a series that hit. 7 series. I was like, oh my gosh. So I had
You can't predict which ones are going to be the ones that hit. You just
That's
can't.
right. And she calls her ones that don't do as well donkeys, and her ones that do better racehorses. And I would say my first racehorse series is probably the one that starts with The Bequest. The Birch Creek Ranch series is probably my first one that sold quite well and been easy to market, because the first thing I tried to do with my romance women's fiction name, the B.E. Baker, was I tried to put out a romance. And what's funny is only authors have brought up the tense. Authors have said, this is first person present. And I'm like, yes, it is. I haven't had any readers bring it up. But I do hear that from authors a lot. Holy crap, but I wrote it was supposed to be a billionaire series. And then I made a bunch of cinnamon roll heroes who were super wonderful and kind. And you don't even find out that the first book that the guy is a billionaire until the very end. And I was like, these are marketed wrong. This is not your stereotypical alpha male billionaire. I am doing this all wrong. So I had a couple of things like that, but then people loved the series so much that I went ahead and finished the series instead of just bagging it and starting over, which is what I should probably have done for my career. So that book series has like 9 books. But the people that love the Finding series, I mean, they love it. They've read every single one. They buy it in paperback and ebook and listen to it on audio. So they're like heartwarming standalone stories that all connect.
And they have beautiful covers.
Well, so they were like couples, and I tried billionaire covers, and I was like, none of these fit the story. So I ended up asking my cover artist, I said, I want something that looks women's fiction-y, because even though they're romances, so, usually you read a romance and it's
a storyline to them. Yeah.
Yeah. Mine have a lot of stuff going on. I mean, it's really like the main character. That's why I call it the Finding series. They all have something that they need to find before they can find love.
Yeah, there's good character arcs.
They're not ready. Yeah, big character arcs in all of them. So they're really long. The Finding Liberty one was like 115,000 words. So they're not short. They're not like your quick 50,000 word romance. They're all like 100,000 words. They're pretty substantial. So after that,
tell everyone where you sell, where can they find your books? You have a website.
I have a website, but my books are literally everywhere. If you can sell a book there, my books are there. They're in audio everywhere. Chirp, Apple, Google Play, Audible, everywhere. They're in ebook, they're in paperback, they're on Barnes and Noble, they're on Apple, they're on Amazon, of course, they're on Google Play, they're in Scribd, they're in libraries, they're on Kobo Plus. The only place you can't read my books that people want to read, this is what I hear all the time. I am not in Kindle Unlimited because in order to enroll in Kindle Unlimited, you have to opt out of everything else.
Yeah.
And I'm not willing to do it. So when people say, I'm so sad this isn't in Kindle Unlimited, I'm like, I'm so sorry. They make us pick. We can either be in Kindle Unlimited or we can be everywhere else. So when people say they, need to be on a subscription plan, I would tell them Kobo just opened their subscription plan, Kobo Plus, up in the United States and UK as well. Yeah. So it's the same price as Kindle Unlimited, and all the books that you can't find in KU are probably in there.
And Kobo Plus has a program where for just a couple of dollars more, you get unlimited audio as well.
Audio too. Yeah. So
I mean, what a deal. And for those of you who don't know, you can if you have a phone, you can download your Kindle app and you can download your Nook app and your Kobo app, and read. You don't have to have a device.
And one of the things that I tell my readers all the time, I can't tell you how many readers I've had switch over, because if I want to sell you my book for a deal, if I want to put a sale on, At Amazon, at Kobo, but for sure at Amazon, if I want to discount it below $2.99, they hardly give me any money. I get like a pittance. I get like 30 cents.
Yeah.
But if I drop below $2.99 on Barnes and Noble, I still get 70%. And on Google Play, I still get 70%. So when people are like, well, where would it be better for you if I go? I said, I love Nook and I love Google Play, and they have apps. So you can download their app and read there. And then you're doing what's better for authors, I think. But I mean, it's not that I love all of my partners, but those guys really have our back. They're really trying to help us out. So I like to push them a little extra.
I do too. I'm right there with you. And plus I read on all of those platforms. Barnes and Noble has been one of my favorites for years, partly because I started out trad and I did a lot of book signings in their stores, and they were so supportive, and they still are. I mean,
even for indies, they have dedicated people who reach out and try to help indies find readers, which I absolutely adore.
And
so,
I've just, read in recent months that their new CEO is actually moving back towards selling books as the primary function of the Barnes and Noble store. So that's good to hear.
So the Birch Creek Ranch series, The Bequest, and then the books that follow got selected for a feature on Barnes and Noble. And the entire series was on their bestseller list for like 3 weeks. And so the CEO sent me a personal message telling me that she'd recognized how much my books resonated with their readers and was just delighted to partner with me and couldn't wait to do it again in the future. And I was like, me too.
Yeah. Well, and that's what I miss about being trad, because I loved my publishing house, and we were so close with my marketing people and such. I just miss that camaraderie and that interaction. And what, the reason that I love She's Reading and reaching out and meeting, Elena and you and others, is we kind of do that for one another behind the scenes.
Yeah,
so
I
that's
agree.
really helpful. And I love to bring authors to the She's Reading group, because I know kind of what you guys like. I've learned over 3 years now, the authors that you enjoy having, and I knew that Bridget would be one that you guys would want to meet. So, as usual, we don't see any of your comments, but I really encourage you to put any questions you have for Bridget in the comments. And then right after this, chat, she's going to go in there and she's going to answer them. She's also going to go in there after we're done, and she's going to list her website, her her newsletter, and any other social media or any place she wants to provide for you to connect with her, because you're going to want to connect with her and stay connected. I've got a couple of questions for her.
Great.
I want to know, tell me, what about this writing books and publishing, because you're your own publisher, so you wear both hats, but what about it gives you the deepest joy?
Honestly, my favorite, now I'm an extrovert, so writing books is
not
not necessarily the easiest career, because a lot of my work is spent just by myself. But the thing that I love the most, and I got an email from a guy who was an 83-year-old widower, and he sent me a message and said that his wife passed in the fall, and he has read every single one of my books systematically, started with the B.E. Baker titles, and then went through and read all the Bridget E. Baker titles. And he said that my books have helped him survive his wife of like 60 years passing away. Wow. And I said, holy cow. And I replied and said, thank you so much for this message. Like, getting messages from readers is my favorite part. And especially when I find out, so my kids will come in while I'm writing and they'll say, oh my gosh, Mom, is everything okay? And I'm literally sitting there bawling, and they're like, what's wrong? I'm like, this is such a hard scene for this parent, right? So the way that I write is it's first person present. So for me too, I'm writing and I'm like, they've been through so much. I mean, I'm putting them through it, but they've been through so much, And of course, most of these things. So one of the things you asked me before was how I got the idea for that series, the Bequest series. Mm-hmm. And I talked so much that I didn't answer that. But what I was going to say is that series features 2 widows. And so in my legal life, I frequently get requests from, I'm going to turn on this lamp because it's getting dark. I get requests from friends and family. My brother passed away when he was only 24. And I was like, I'm 2 years older than him. So I was 26. And so his wife obviously is now a widow. And so I helped her with a bunch of legal stuff, but I've also had the opportunity to help a lot of family and friends as they've gone through legal problems, just to be nice, although I do still do some legal work, but I try not to do much. But one of my good friends, a couple of years ago, right before, maybe 6 or 8 months before I wrote The Bequest, her husband passed away. And she was telling me how her brother-in-law had passed away. Her husband's brother had passed away a year before. And she said she wasn't good friends with his widow, his wife, until her husband died too. And they were both going through this at the same time, having lost their husbands who were brothers. And she said, we've become really, really close since then, when we really didn't have much in common before. And so at the same time, I was doing legal work, because I said I still get stuck doing a lot of legal work. This is paid legal work for an old family friend. They own a ranch, and it's on the border of Utah and Wyoming. It is literally the Birch Creek Ranch. And so I'm handling all this legal stuff for them. It's in a family trust. And the ranch was left to all of the siblings, the kids. But as long as one of them wanted to run it as an active ranch, they would continue to run it. It can't be split or sold. Yeah. And so as I was dealing with all of this, and these siblings all get along great, luckily, and there's a lot of them, there's like 7 siblings. And so as I was handling all of this stuff and thinking about this widow thing, it occurred to me, what if I had a ranch? And I literally I had to spend so much time, because I'm really obsessive about details. I don't want to get them wrong.
Makes your book so good.
Well, I try to, and I'll fall into research holes, and my husband will come in and be like, did you get any writing done? I'm like, no, I spent 14 hours reading through the Liechtenstein Constitution. And he's like, what? And I said, well, this book's set in Liechtenstein, Finding Home of my Finding series. And he's like, why are you reading their constitution? Isn't it in German? I'm like, they have an English version. And he's like, what is wrong with you? I'm like, I want to make sure I get these details right. So anyway, I spent, probably 100 hours talking on the phone to this guy, Doug, who is running their family ranch. And he's so nice, he and his wife. I asked them so many questions, because I have, of course, horses and chickens, and I know a lot about that, but I didn't know anything about cattle ranching. Yeah. I didn't know about the timing. I didn't know what things they had to do. So I still call him when I'm writing these, and I'm like, I had an idea about this. And my mother-in-law grew up on a cattle ranch, and so she knows a lot about it, has a degree in agriculture. So I've called and asked her and imposed on her, and her sister, who's running a cattle ranch now. So I called a bunch of places, but I ended up setting it exactly on their ranch. And I went up to do the cattle drive up on their ranch. It's been a lot of fun. It's been really interesting. They're really excited. And the people in the town, I set all of my books, it's a personal judgment call, but I set all of my books in real places. So most of my friends don't, Kelly. So I'm surprised to hear that you do, because every time I talk to someone, they're like, the fictional town of Sheet Cake, Texas. That's my friend, Emma St. Clair. So like all these people have all these fictional towns, so you can kind of make up what you want. I stupidly set all of mine in real places. So I have to do a lot of research on like exactly how this would be. What would the climate be like? Could this happen? How big is it? How many people are there? What would the roads be?
So the readers love it though, because then they go and they see the places they read about. And I get emails all the time.
I hear from a lot of people who are like, my family's from there, but which is funny, because I've got books set in Galveston, which is close to me, but all of the places I set it in, for the most part, I've been. So like I set one of my Finding Home books in Liechtenstein. Well, we'd been there. So I had seen a lot of things, and still, of course, I'll get details wrong. I'm sure people will sometimes message me. I'll be like, oh, let me fix that. And the nice thing about indie, it's hard to fix the audio, but I can fix the ebook and the print usually pretty quickly and easily if there's a small detail that's wrong. So anyway, so that gave me the idea for telling the story of 2 widows whose husbands had died, who were not friends and had nothing in common. One of them was an influencer in New York City, and I spent a lot of hours on the phone with my friend whose sister-in-law is an influencer. And then one of them is a lawyer in Texas. I decided to just make one of them easy. I made her a lawyer in Houston. I was like, this part is simple. And what, Kelly, the dumbest thing I did is I thought, whenever I read these books, they always have one kid if they have a kid, or sometimes you'll see the oddball book where there are 2, but you almost never have lots of kids. And I have 5. And I was like, why don't I ever see books where these people have a lot of kids? So I gave the lawyer in Houston 4 kids, and I gave the influencer 2. So there's 6 kids that are main characters in these books. And I found out why. It's a lot of people to keep up with. I was like, oh my gosh, how many people are in this scene? So, but what's been fun is how many comments I have gotten. This reminded me of my family growing up. This reminded me of my summers spent wherever. This reminded me, all of your kids are totally different. I'm like, yeah, there were 6. So I made 5 of them my kids and threw in a cousin.
And I want to tell you that in this day and age, particularly, a lot of people read because they want to be part of community or be part of a family. And if they hadn't been in a big family, that's such a delight for them. And I can see why readers would absolutely love that. And you did a really great job. You say it was hard, but flawless. It was great.
Oh, well, that's nice. I got one early review that said, this book is full of way too many kids. And I was like, I feel like this lady's like waving at people on the bus. You hush up. And I was like, I'm so sorry. That's how I feel.
I'll tell you that, I would highly recommend, if you have never read Bridget or B.E. Baker, that you start with a bequest. It's just my personal favorite, but that's a good one to start with. And you put that one on discount pretty frequently, I think.
So I just wrote this down. Amazon just sent me that there's going to be a Kindle deal on it.
Oh, good.
Kind of weird. I don't know why they do it this way, but if you're looking for a deal, you can mark your calendar. There is a Kindle deal on book 2 for some reason on the 6th of May. It'll only be $2.49.
Oh, wow.
And then on the 8th of May, 2 days later, they're doing a Kindle daily deal on the bequest. So I don't know why they're doing book 2 first, but May 6th, it'll be $2.49 for book 2, and May 8th, it'll be $2.49 for book 1. So
note in your calendar, and then I'll have Bridget make sure that she notes that in the comments tonight. I'm going to ask her a couple of other questions. I want to know, which of your characters in all your books do your readers love to hate?
Oh, a lot.
Which character is one of those, those pills that you just...
Here's the thing. If we're talking about the Bequest series, everybody knows an Amanda. There's a character named Amanda. Amanda has self-esteem issues. So because of her self-esteem issues, she has a tendency to think only about herself because she's always worried about what other people think about her. Mm-hmm. And so there is someone who put in a review, and I was like, they hit the nail right on the head. This is a character who, it's the kind of person, you guys will know who I'm talking about when I say this. If you say I had a bad day, they'll say, oh, mine was so much worse. If you say this amazing thing happened to me, they'll say something even more amazing happened to me. So if your day is good, theirs was better. If
I call those globe heads. The whole world revolves around them. Yeah.
Yeah. And so this entire series, she's a point of view character in the entire series. And I make her do the impossible because she actually grows. Gosh, wouldn't I love if some of the people in my life would follow Amanda and actually grow? But I do get a lot of people saying, oh my God, she's making me crazy, but she makes you crazy because you all know someone just like that. And
so when you guys read this series, you're going to have to send Bridget some emails and confirm whether or not you agree that Amanda is the character you love to hate.
But I will tell you that all of mine, I would say if you had to pick one thing for my writing that is the same, no matter, because I write like, I was counting the other day and it was a horrifying number of genres. I write a bunch of stuff, and I don't stay in boxes. I'm terrible with marketing. I write whatever story ideas come to me. And then I try to shove them under one of the 2 pen names that I think they'll fit best. And I've got post-apocalyptic and urban fantasy and Egyptian mythology influenced urban fantasy. And I have a book series that's literally if Friends was paranormal characters in New York City. So they're like a witch, a vampire, a werewolf, a wizard. Anyway, it's a lot of fun. I actually think it was my favorite book series, but it hasn't sold as well.
The nice thing is all of them are clean and wholesome. So, for a lot of these members, they've emailed me and asked me, who they can count on to give the books to their granddaughters, their teen daughters, their, or their mothers, and so
my 10-year-old has read
all of Bridget's books. Yeah, all of Bridget's books are fair for all ages.
So the first 2 or 3 books I put out had the H word in one of them, and I think maybe the D word. I mean, I have like maybe a total of 2 or 4 swear words in 35 books, and there's no adult content in any of them. So all of my books are clean. I will say that my Bridget Baker books are occasionally violent. People call it literary violence because they're not graphic, but they are one of the series, especially my Birthright series. It's they're superhuman and they heal really, really fast. So they're kind of a vicious people who fights a lot. And so there's a lot of fight scenes. So if
that's known in that genre, I mean,
right, it is. And so there is violence. So just beware, but it's not the kind of thing where you'd be like, whoa, I mean, it's a lot of stuff happens, but I don't focus on anything gory. But what I was going to say is that series is the one that I almost sold to HarperCollins and then almost sold to Abrams. And that series is why my agent and I parted paths, because I finally got an offer on it that was like a third of what I'd gotten offered from HarperCollins. But they were worried about the biblical premise, number one, because the basic idea is that these people are direct lineal descendants of Adam and Eve. So they have perfect DNA. They're only like 6 generations removed. So they heal really fast and live a long time. Because, if you look in the Bible,
They lived a long time in the early.
Melchizedek lived like 969 years and he was like 6 generations removed. So that's kind of my like idea. And so they're the secret society that rules the world that we don't know about. They call themselves Evians, but anyway, you know, descendants of Eve. Anyway, so in that series, books 1, 3, 5, and 7 are the main character's point of view. Books 2, 4, and 6 are the villain's point of view. So, and each time it's a villain from the prior book who you find out a lot of other information from. When people read them, it's funny, I was talking to someone and they were like, well, what series do you think wins you the biggest super fans? I said, hands down, that series. People get tattoos from that series. People read it 10 times. They have it in every format. They tell all their friends about it. It's a 7-book series that if you get into it, it becomes your favorite series of all time.
Yeah.
But it's harder to get people into it because it's weird. It's like, I joke that it's my hamburger where I'm like, it's not a hamburger, it's not an enchilada. If you like Mexican food and hamburgers, then you might like a hamburger enchilada. And people are like, I don't know what that is. I'm going to have a taco. That's my series. But then if you try it, you're like, all I want is hamburger enchiladas forever, you know? So that one though, but all of my books, the thing that I think ties them all together is I write about shades of gray. I write about people who did something wrong and are redeemed. I write about people who there's almost no villains in my books. All of the villains are people who made a mistake or got confused because every villain is the hero in their story. So there are certainly some people that are truly awful.
You know, that must be why I connect with you and your book so much, because I adore redemption stories. I mean, that's just my thing. And those themes are often in my stories as well. For all of you who've been listening to Bridget, you can tell she just is a storyteller. You know, there's some authors that are good writers, some people that are good marketers. When you have an author that has the package of good writing and really great storytellers, you've got Bridget. And so I'm just delighted she's here, and I really hope that you'll all go out and take a try and look at her books. We're almost at time, unfortunately, but you know, and we got on here so quickly, I didn't get a chance to ask you, but typically when guests come on, they do some sort of a giveaway, and it does not have to be a book. It can be anything. We didn't get a chance to talk about that before we came on, so I'm sorry if I'm kind of putting you on the spot. But typically what happens is everyone who comments is entered to win, and then you go in the morning and pick someone and then say this is who won the prize. So
I'm always happy to do a giveaway.
Okay.
And I don't know if you have international people. I'm also happy to do a paperback for someone in the US and an ebook for someone who's international. But
Wow.
I should also mention that I currently have 4 books that are free everywhere. So anyone who wants a free book, if you want to try a B.E. Baker book, you can download Finding Faith. It's a full-length 85,000 word book for free anywhere, Finding Faith.
I have that. I'm going to go get it.
So you can get Finding Faith. If you are a little more adventurous and want to try some weird stuff, I have the post-apocalyptic one that I was talking about, dystopian. That's called Marked. It's a Bridget Baker title. I have the first book. It's 600 pages long of that one that I was talking about, the Evian one that's biblically based. That one is called Displaced, and that's Bridget Baker as well. That's also free. And then I also have the first of my Egyptian mythology inspired urban fantasy romance. And that one's called Anchored. Also, my brother passed away. I mentioned that. This story was inspired by that. And so the story is it is an urban fantasy romance, but it is also very much a story between siblings. It's about a brother and sister and how far someone would go to try and save the person that matters most to them. So that probably is my book that gets the least love. And it was like the book of my heart.
Let's do this. Let's have you also list those books that are free. And if you want, put links, because that way everybody can go grab some free. I mean, you guys are going to get some free books tonight. Thank you. That is just so sweet. So
everybody can get those. And then I'll also do you usually do like a paperback domestic and then like a ebook international?
Authors have given away bracelets, they've given away candy bars, they've given away books, you know, whatever you want.
Okay, well, we'll do that. I'll do an ebook internationally, and I'll do a paperback domestic. And if you want to swap out the paperback domestic, I'll do a box set for either one, a box set international or box sets, and then you can get a couple of free books if you prefer ebook.
All right. So all you have to do tonight is just put a comment, a question, a comment, anything right underneath this video. And then Bridget's going to go on as soon as we get done. She'll answer all your questions. She'll post how you can find her, you know, her website and all that. And she'll list all those links for the free books. So before we leave, though, I have something that we normally do as we end the chat, and that is rapid fire questions. So I'm just going to say this or that, and then you tell us which one. Okay.
Yep.
So chocolate or vanilla,
Vanilla.
pie or cake,
Pie.
beer or wine,
Neither. I don't drink.
That's me. Lemonade,
Lemonade.
stilettos or flip-flops,
Flip flops.
dawn or sunset.
Dawn.
Me too. Swimming or walking,
Walking. I was on swim team in high school too.
beach or mountains,
Beach.
cook or takeout,
Cook.
campground or resort.
Oh my gosh, resort.
And the last one, flowers or massage.
Flowers.
Yeah, I love both. In fact, when if I meet my word goals for a month, I will treat myself to a massage.
Look at you.
That's kind of
I
nice.
used to get them a lot, but I don't really get massages anymore. I think because I don't know why. I just kind of stopped getting them.
So are you going to be at Novelist Inc. in Florida? Oh, good. Can we
Yeah,
plan to catch each
I
other for
never
dinner?
miss Nate. So I would love that. I think we should go to dinner or lunch or something. I'm happy
Yeah.
with whatever.
Let's grab Elena and some of our buddies and
Yeah,
go.
That sounds great.
Thank you for being here tonight. This was just so fun.
Yep.
Gave me a chance to just chat with you some more. And so there you have it, everyone. My new and best friend, one of my the readers, the new author that I've started to read, and I hope you enjoy her too. So thank you, Bridget.
Thank you so much, Kelly. It was so fun being here. It's always fun to talk to you. So
yeah, always fun.
you guys have a
All
great
right.
night.
Good night. Good night, everyone.